So I recently just wanted to, I don't know why, I just thought of this. I thought this would be interesting to talk about. I went to a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament not that long ago. It was probably this summer. It was probably this past summer. And I just wanted to tell this story because I thought it was interesting from like the perspective of someone who's not like a competitive Yu-Gi-Oh player going out and playing in this competitive Yu-Gi-Oh scene. It was as brutal as you can probably imagine off the top of your head. But this is kind of like the story I want to share for people who are also new to the Yu-Gi-Oh competitive scene or locals or anything like that. So I'll just like briefly go over my experience. So this was a while ago. I went to this. First and foremost, there's no locals shop anywhere near me. I either have to go an hour out of my current hometown in either direction, north or south, to even remotely find a card shop or game store that hosts local events, because that's where these things take place, in card shops, game stores, places like that. I went with my good buddy Lincoln, whom, if you guys watch the podcast at all, you guys will know that Lincoln is my co-host, and we're best friends. We pretty much go and we do any and everything together. And he's the one that got me into Yu-Gi-Oh in the first place. And that was many years ago too, but that's a different story. And had been talking about going to a locals tournament for a really long time now, because we just wanted to see what it was like. We had never done it before. And I particularly was like, I want to go, I want to try it, I want to see what it's like. And that was mainly because we had spent so much time casually playing between the two of us, building fun decks that we liked. And then it got to a point where we were building decks that are reasonably competitive or have some sort of competitive edge to them. That just makes it fun for us to play. So we were like, let's go to a locals tournament. So we went one. He lives, in one of the places that's an hour away. So we went there. We went on a Saturday, I believe, Saturday or Friday. I can't remember. But we went, and the decks that we brought were our most competitive decks, but they were by no means what I would consider meta decks at all. So he brought a Blue Eyes White Dragon deck, which, as you can probably imagine, is one of the least meta decks you can have. I think the last time it was meta was in like 2016, so like 8 years ago. But he really wanted to bring it. It was like his best deck with like Chaos, Blue Eyes White Dragon. I can't remember what his card was for it. Like I said, I'm not that great of a Yu-Gi-Oh player, just that much of one in the first place, but I love Yu-Gi-Oh. So I went, hold on, let me show you. That was like one of my best cards. Yeah, so I was running Gladiator Beast. This is basically just a deck with Gladiator, Beast monsters, Test Tiger, stuff like that. Ondal, like one of the premier ones. And then I think like the most competitive or meta my cards got was Infinite Impermanence. So yeah, and it was just like real contact fusion heavy extra deck. So it was fun. It's a fun deck. It's a fun deck to play casually, and I say that in that manner because that is not at all good enough. So our experience basically was, we went into the store. We didn't really know what we were doing or who to go, where, like who to talk to, because we knew it was supposed to start at a certain point in time, but we weren't really sure, when it starts, where to sit, how the tournament even worked, because we'd never done it before. And of course, you have to like pay. My first rule of thumb is that if you have to pay to enter into a locals tournament, it is already probably too serious for you. Now, I think you can go to some places, or I think you can go to clubs or something, and you can like play in tournaments for free. But understand that the point of one of these tournaments is like the goal is to win something, whether that be booster packs or mats or something along those lines. The goal is to win something, and the goal is to prove that you can win. at least in this context. So right away, us having to pay to play was already like, okay, this is a serious tournament. And we did not realize how much more serious it would get going into it. So this is just a funny aside, but when we were sitting down waiting for the tournament to begin after, like, we had signed on with, let me see here, what was it? The Neuron app. If you guys have never heard of this, Neuron is an app that you have to have on your phone so that you can actually like log in to local tournaments. And it's supposed to help you like sign into these tournaments and track your progress and stuff like that. It's interesting. I've never had to use it before. Obviously, I haven't had to use it since, but I keep it on there just in case. But the funny aside I was talking about was that while we were waiting for the tournament to begin, there was a Magic the Gathering tournament taking place, like right next to the section we were having the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and the host for the tournament was asking the Magic the Gathering players to please move out of the Yu-Gi-Oh section so that we could focus on the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. And she looked at me and she started yelling and she was like, "Hey, I said all the Magic players get the fuck out of here." And I was like, "Is she talking to me?" I was like, why is she yelling at me? I was like, "I'm here for the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament." She was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, you look just like somebody that was in the Magic the Gathering tournament." I was like, "Okay, no, it's fine. It's fine. I got that. I get that a lot, actually. I'm always told that I look exactly like somebody, but it usually just involves dark hair and glasses, which I think is just funny." But anyway, we get into the tournament. Me and Lincoln, you enter, I believe, through the Neuron app, and that's how they randomly select your seats. I don't know how it worked, but we get our opponents, and Lincoln gets matched with some guy. Don't know anything about him yet. I get matched with a guy who is actually the dad of one of the other players in the tournament. So I thought that was really cool. I thought that was cool that there's like this like age variety, so to speak, when it comes to the players in the tournament. And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I haven't been playing Yu-Gi-Oh very long, but my son's in the tournament." And you could just tell he was a good guy. He was really welcoming, and he also doesn't play tournaments, and his deck was not super competitive. It was like a bug insect themed deck. I can't really remember much about it, but I think it was probably the best matchup I could have luckily gotten going into the first duel of the tournament. And we battled, we went back and forth. I was so nervous. I played like shit in the first duel. I played like absolute shit in the first duel. And he beat me on the first one. And it's a 2 out of 3. So he beat me on the first one. And I was so embarrassed because I was like, I know I could be playing better because I know Gladiator Beast. I know my deck. I know how to play. I'm going to play with Lincoln all the time. But then I decided, okay, I'm going to lock in on the next one, go after it because I know I can beat this guy. So we go into it on the second duel, and we're going after, we're playing. And the funny thing about us like playing back and forth is that my opponent also doesn't like get some of the rules, same as me. Like there's certain aspects of Yu-Gi-Oh where it's like you don't understand how like certain effects take place in the order that they take place, or how certain negates take place in the order they take place. Does a negate certain effects? There's costs, there's all this different stuff. And my opponent kept looking at this other guy who was down the table from us, and he kept like hollering over to him and kept asking him questions relating to the rules. And this guy, I mean, he knew his shit. He was like one of those good players. He knew his shit, and so he kept calling back and kept saying stuff like, "Well, I don't know this, I don't know that, but you gotta play it like this, play it like this." He wasn't coaching him, he was just explaining the rules. And then I won the second duel, and these time frames that you're supposed to do these 2 out of 3s is like 45 minutes. We took up the first and the second duel in like the first 40 or 35 minutes. So we only had 10 minutes left for our third duel, and we went into it. We did not have any time to finish it. I don't even think anybody lost life points, and we ended up tying. So we were like, what does that mean? I didn't know what that meant. I thought that means we both get eliminated, but no, there's no such thing as, like, in these tournaments, elimination for elimination's sake. You don't lose a number and then you get kicked out. It's based on a point system. So if you tie, you get 1 point. If you win, you get 2 points, and if you lose, you get 0 points. So I look over at Lincoln, and Lincoln matched up with some national qualifier, and goodness gracious, there was like multiple national qualifiers at this tournament, and he matched up with someone like that in his first duel, and he got completely blown out of the water. He said he had like one good instance where his Chaos Max Blue Eyes White Dragon or whatever came onto the field, and his opponent was like, oh shit, but it was pretty much a wrap from that point on. He got really unlucky facing somebody like that in the first opener, so he walked away with a loss. I was just thankful that I had probably the best opponent for my first duel in my first tournament. My second time around was not as lucky. I went up against a national qualifier. This dude is playing his cards like it's nobody's business. He's not even like... The thing that threw me off was that he was not even playing his cards in the structure that you are supposed to play the field of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you have your monster zone, your spell zone, your extra deck zone. He didn't have it set up like that at all. He was just pulling his cards out and playing them. And like, he's doing like the finger flick thing where he's just kind of like saucering his cards around. And it was like boom, 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 I win. Boom, 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 OTK. Boom, 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 you're done. And I couldn't do anything. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. Like, the skill gap between this guy who has been to national tournaments, and I asked him. He was like, he hasn't even placed in national tournaments, but he has been invited to national tournaments, played in national tournaments, and now he's at this locals shop beating the piss out of players like me. And it's like, you could tell looking at him, it wasn't even fun for him. It wasn't even fun for him to beat up a squab like me. So I walked away from that one with 0. Lincoln, I can't remember who he fought, if it was another uber badass or something. He walked away with another loss. And so I'm going into my third duel, my third opponent, and you could tell he was like a nervous guy too, but he was coming into it with like a heroes deck. He was coming into it with a heroes deck, and I love heroes. I wanted to make like a evil hero deck. Still haven't done that because, you know, that costs money. There's a whole video where I talk about how much Yu-Gi-Oh cards cost. But yeah, it was crazy. We had a good little back and forth. I mean, it was somewhat competitive, but he was basically able to play off the strengths of his deck and pretty much like swing for game every time. I lost that one 2-0. But that one was a lot more fun, I think, just because of the engagement between myself and my opponent was a lot more involved. But I still lost. And then I look over, Lincoln was sitting behind me at another table. He had just lost. So by that point, we were like, okay, we've just lost. He lost 3 in a row. I tied and lost 2 in a row. And once you go through like your third loss or something like that, we were like, all right, it's time to wrap it up. Time to go home. You know, we're not doing too good. We're not doing too hot. Obviously, we're not going to win. The tournament was pretty much over at that point anyway. So the host came back and she gave us booster packs of the most recent pack. I think it was Forbidden something. I forgot the name of that booster pack. But we got booster packs. That was really fun. And then we left. We talked about it. And we were invited to come back on a different day by the guy I fought in the first round. And what he told us is that we came on a Friday night, and Friday night is apparently super competitive and where all the big players come out to play. So we definitely went on the wrong night with the wrong decks, and it was just like it was a massacre. But he said if we came back on Saturday at during lunchtime or something like that, then we it's a lot more laid back and a lot more casual. And we still haven't gone back. I kind of want to just to see what it's like, but yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. It was fun at first, and then it teetered off and just got kind of annoying, brutal, embarrassing. But at the end of the day, like I think we still had fun, but it's kind of one of those things where we're like, I don't know if we'd ever do it again. But yeah, that's pretty much my first and probably only experience at a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. Um, that's the story. Bye.